Let's go, Dr. Joe. Talking about love today. How we can feel love to give love.
How can people better learn to love themselves?
Wow, I mean, that's an interesting conversation. I think love has to be redefined to some degree because I think a lot of people have a different definition about love. But once again, I really have seen this numerous times. They have to practice feeling love. I mean, you cannot love unless you practice feeling it, and I think if you practice feeling love, you get better at feeling love. And if you get better at feeling love, you become less selfish and more selfless. In other words, you're not, when you're executing from your heart, when you're feeling love, I think you consider the whole. So for me, I think when people push themselves past that point where they normally stop, um, and they truly believe in themselves, I think they're in love with themselves. And when they're in love with themselves, they're pretty much in love with everybody. And when they're angry at themselves, they're angry at others. And when they're resentful with themselves, or judgmental of themselves, or judgmental of others. I think that's the law. So we've seen it numerous times. We've seen, especially when you see a collective group of people in a state of joy. It's not common that you see that in the world these days.
You can't give away what you don't have. So you got to practice love. That's kind of like, it's a bit confusing that we actually have to practice love. You'd think it'd just be a part of our nature, but obviously it's not. If you were raised in a certain way where love was absent, or you've had experiences where you've lost love of life, starting with losing love for yourself, then unfortunately, you have to practice how to love, starting with you. But fortunately, the more you practice it, you get better at it, just like anything. And then you're able to give that to the world. So you first start with self love, respecting yourself, talking to yourself kindly, positively, building yourself up in your mind without breaking anyone else down around you. And if you don't know anything positive, if you got nothing positive to say about yourself, just look at your hands or your nose or your eyes in the mirror, or your ears. Start with the basic thing. Did you invent any of those? Did you create any of those? Did you create your eyes to see, your nose to smell, your ears to hear? That's basic level, right down at the foundation level. Be grateful for that. Say, wow, I love my eyes that they can see. I'm so grateful that my ears can hear, my nose can smell, I can touch, I can feel. And that's where the journey of self love begins. Start in a very tiny place and build from it. Be grateful that you can communicate, you can talk, you can speak, you can text, you can write. Be grateful that you have other people around your life. If you don't, just walk outside of your door and talk to someone, even if it's a random stranger. Be grateful for that, that you're part of life and you're living. That's where self love begins, people, at the basic foundation level. What say ye, Dr. Joe
Well, I heard a story from you about
or
a
Chris?
basketball player, maybe a basketball player in a wheelchair, who said that he never loved himself at one of your events. And it just really struck me, that line, I never really loved myself.
Yeah, yeah,
I just thought it
yeah.
was
He
very
had
interesting.
he had MS. I'm pretty sure he's a professional football player. I think
Football.
and he came to the event. It was kind of funny, and
Right there. It is interesting. That's what I was meaning before, like us having the need to practice love. It suggests that sometimes we fall out of love with life, beginning with ourselves. But then this guy, what I find is interesting is that the NFL professional football player about to speak about, he stated that he had never loved himself. Yet, look how far he got in life. Just compare or talk about his career. You can get so far in life without loving yourself. So how important is it to love yourself to get somewhere in life? Obviously, you don't need self-love to get places, but how more smoothly and more peaceful would the journey be if you did love yourself? And how far would you go if you loved yourself? So say, for example, this NFL football guy, how much could have he done had he known or had he loved himself more? He's probably going to have like an amazing career as what he currently does, but the experience and the people around him will be a lot richer. So he's sitting on this train, journeying to somewhere. People think it's about the destination, but it's about who you become on that journey. So this guy, he was on the train, wasn't even looking outside the window to enjoy the view and ponder about how great it is to be him. He was just on the train, just head down, playing footy. Eventually, though, throughout that journey, he finally looked out the window, and what did he see? Let's go.
His brother brought him there, and he thought he was coming to a yoga retreat. He didn't know what he was getting into.
Yoga retreat.
And the guy came in a wheelchair, and he's walking at the end of the event. It never occurred to him to love himself. And we had someone else with ALS that came in a wheelchair, and they brought him backstage. He was walking on that beach, and he said, "Oh my God, the more I practice feeling love, the more I feel like I'm healing." He didn't say, how come I'm not healed all the way? He said, "Oh my God, every time I feel deeper and deeper levels of love, somehow my body is changing and healing." So now he's feeling love with an intention to heal, right? And I think that you get to a certain point where, we've seen this. We've seen oxytocin levels in our community, the love chemical, 200 times normal. And when you're feeling that amount of love, it's really hard to hold a grudge. You would never want to stop feeling that way. And so you're okay with everybody in that state.
Any other thought that you have is ripping you out of that state that you're already in.
You start to go, "Oh my God, I like feeling this a lot." So then now it just becomes contagious. You want to feel more of it. And I think there's always more love.
Is there something similar to do with fear of other people, judgment of others, criticism, dealing with criticism of other people, that if you have this sense of innate comfort and joy with where you're at, that any opportunity or risk or threat for that to change just looks like a really shit deal?
Yeah.
Why would I take that deal?
Yeah.
I want to take that deal.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Chris is really good at asking very pointed questions. So if you're just chill by nature, inside your heart and inside your mind, just like a baby, no matter what the other person or what is happening externally from you, your response will be based off that feeling, your identity, your character. You're just like, "Hey man, nah, that's cool, eh? You just hit my car and you were in the wrong, but let's work it out." It's not like you're going to say, "Oh, yeah, don't worry about it." No. Your character will still be strong, even though you're chilled, you're soft about it, but your response will be accurate. It'll be, "It's okay, you're alive. We just had an accident. Let's sort it out. Let's exchange details. Let's do what we legally have to do." As opposed to if you're uptight or, you're on a negative vibe at that moment, the response is totally different. And then Dr. Joe previously, a few minutes ago, just talked about the more you practice love and get into that state, your brain releases the chemical oxytocin, which gives you that feeling of comfort, of happiness, of rest, of peace. And then you want it more. So you don't want to be in this state of survival. You want to be in the state of homeostasis, a rested state, so that you can enjoy your surrounding, you can enjoy your life around you, and then you can create from that point of peace and rest and harmony in your mind, body, and soul.
Yeah, and I think that's a natural state of being when we're not in survival. When we move out of survival, I think we tend to be, as a species, very good, very kind, very caring, very loving, very supportive, very informative, and that's people heal each other, people shine for one another. I think that's who we are. We're wired to be that as well as a species. And I think that's that model of then when you're like when we see in the coherence healing is you get a group of people that behave all kinds of ways in their life, and you get them and come together and you instruct them, and they all behave the same way. When they all behave the same way, it's no different than that flock of birds or school of fish. There's an emergent consciousness that's taking place. In other words, in the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And the intention to heal another person, as an example, as the collective puts their attention on these individuals, what they're saying is we're intentionally making the effort to heal this person, because when we do heal this person, we strengthen the whole, right? And so something happens with us where we're wired. I don't know why it's so much easier to clean your neighbor's backyard than your own, but something in us, innate in us, where we get to give life to another person's life, or to love another person into life. Wow. I was just on a Zoom call yesterday with an autistic guy, 27 years old, that was catatonic. He couldn't move. I mean, horrible depression, and got just a
Wait there, before I forget, he talked about like the whole being greater than the sum of its parts. So if we're all individuals, say like there's a tribe of us, but our tribe is all about positivity, creativity, productivity, raising the vibration of energy within our group. And then if one of us feels a bit down because the other members of our tribe is feeling up, that vibration will lift that other person. So we have to make ourselves good for ourselves, and then we join with other people, our type of people, the tribe of positivity, who believes in life as an energy, as the be all and end all, or never ends, but the be all of everything. And when we find that group, we're in the right place, because we can add to that group, we can lift that group, we can energize that group, we can create with that group for that group. And then when we're not on top of our game, we can feed off the same group that we feed.
different. He was scuba diving in Cancun last year after our event. I mean, a different character, but that's not important. What's important is the people that administered the healing on him, and the mother who was sitting there telling the story about how their lives have changed because he just broke out. Like, he's a different guy. He's super poetic. He can talk now. He couldn't talk before. He's practicing. I mean, this is a new life for him, right? And she's crying. And you want to talk about self-love? The group of people that had administered the healing are all on the call, and I'm on the call too, and we're all crying because we're feeling the mother's gratitude. And I think that's one of the greatest ways we can feel gratitude, is when we receive it. So some kind of empathy is born that says that, God, we made a difference in someone's life. We took care of somebody in the tribe. Like, we're strengthened because of this. And this kind of empathy that takes place kind of draws us closer together, when we bond better. So the experience then for that person who administers the healing is creating a level of love that they hadn't had before. And it wasn't from getting the sports car, and it wasn't from going on the vacation. It was by giving to somebody else. And then opening your heart becomes less of a technique. It's not a technique any longer. It's just a way, right? It's a thing. And so the people that do these coherence healings remotely, and great studies on autism, great studies on PTSD, great effects on all kinds of health conditions remotely, I have sat with them and they say, I would never miss. I would never miss, because I could have the worst day in the world. And I can, when it's no longer about me, it's about somebody else. And I can do this and I can make a change in a person's life. They're moving closer to love, right? They're the experience then from that experience that they've never had before, or the repeated experience, brings them so much joy, so much love, that they need less from their outer world. And I think that we're wired to be that way.
It gets more simple. Like when you get back to your basics, say like if the whole modern world just disappeared for a day or for a time, and then it's only you in the elements, you will see like how you've been put into a position where the most important thing is your survival. Then when you get comfortable because you're surviving, you just think, well, I don't have to really survive anymore. I'm here. My surroundings are, I know it. So what else can I do? I might as well create something, build something, go and learn something from nature. And we can put ourselves into that creative zone, even though there's so much distraction around us in our modern world. We can just take time out for ourselves, get to the simple principles of life. Are you safe? Have you got something to eat? Have you got something to drink? If you said yes to those three basic needs, then you're good. So now that you're in that state, you're feeling comfortable, you're feeling the love, you're feeling the energy. Go and create.
Self-regulation, the term that gets thrown around an awful lot. What's that mean to you tactically? How do you employ that?
It's so easy in a matter of seconds to react to someone or something, to respond to some stray thought, and in a matter of seconds default back to those subconscious and unconscious programs, because that emotion is driving you to behave as if you're in the past. It's automatic, right? So it's seamless. The default system causes us to lose our connection to the vision of the future, our belief in the future. And it happens so fast that we forget of that future, right? So self-regulation is the ability to regulate or control your internal state of how you're thinking and feeling in a condition in your environment that normally would create another feeling or another emotion, right? So here's one of the things we did in our studies. We don't do it anymore, but we did it for a long time. We saw that our community, we could teach them how to make their heart beat more coherently. And when the heart does that, it sends out a magnetic field up to 3 meters wide. It's a big field. And people can get really good at that, and you can do it in a ballroom with 1,000 other people or 2,000 other people. Close your eyes, forget about your outer environment, breathe and feel, practice feeling these elevated emotions, get good at it, and you can manage that, okay? But what about when you open your eyes now? What happens when you walk out into your life, And so we decided that we would take our entire community, and we would put them in circumstances and conditions, whether it was rappelling off the side of a building or standing on the top of a 50-foot pole and reaching for jumping for a trampoline, whatever it was.
Bit of dysregulation.
Something to disrupt that level of order. And this was not about an adrenaline rush. This was actually about the opposite. That if you put the person in the circumstances that would normally cause an automatic fear response, automatic vigilance, automatic anxiety, and give them something to do and teach them how to regulate their internal state and get back into heart coherence. And they're wearing monitors, right, when we're doing this. Practice that and accomplish, right? If you could self-regulate in that moment and you return back into your life and you just did it there, it's going to feel like you should be able to do it in your life as well. Not only that, if you put the stakes really high and the threshold is really high, then you face the problems in your life. You're like, that's not so bad relative to what I just did. So self-regulation is to be able to change your emotional state, get back into that heart relaxed. The formula that we discovered is that the more relaxed you are in your heart, the more awake you are in your brain. For some reason, if you keep relaxing in your heart, the brain keeps becoming more awake and aware.
And that's a beautiful place to stop the video for today. The more what did he say?
So if you keep more relaxed you are in your heart,
oh yeah,
the more awake you are in your brain.
The more relaxed you are in your heart, the more awake you are in your brain. Okay, what we need to do is before we get into the normal daily life situations of stress, whether it be in the workplace, at school, when you're under pressure, in a relationship, when you got awkward things to talk about, or when you meet people for the first time, or you're stuck in traffic, or the bus is late, or the train is delayed, or someone took your seat, or someone spilled something on you when you're at Macca's. Before you get into that situation, do meditation at home. Get yourself to a blank space of thinking so that your subconscious knows how to relax when it's not under pressure. And the more you do it, once you get into those pressurized situations, your subconscious will take over. You'll go back to your meditation practices. You'll go back to breathing because that's your new response. You would have had deleted all your previous memories of how you used to respond in those situations. And during your meditation periods, you would create new responses. And then it will show when you go back into daily life, voila, a new response will be seen. And that's it for today, folks, family. Grateful to be alive. Thank you, life. Life is the creator of all things. Its only purpose is to create more things. So we'll catch you on the next video, everybody.